Let's talk a little bit about week 4, strengthening your body. In this session this week, we had a phenomenal opportunity to sync. And the main view that came out of this was shifting our mindset, shifting our actions to align with kingdom standards. So, kingdom standards, really being able to say, listen, based on the world standards, you've probably arrived. Based on the world standards, girl, you live in the Huxtable life. You got it going on. You have the things that the world proclaims are equal success. But the time is now for you to make the shift to kingdom standards. Your husband has said, these are the standards that I have for you, and I need you to step up to them. Step up to them so that you will have the opportunity to wear your crown. As we looked through and went through the guide today, one of the things that really stood out that aligns with we must walk and live in kingdom standards or by kingdom standards is when she calls out and she says, "But I know that although your love for me is absolutely unconditional, you've chosen to reserve your promises for those who choose to walk in obedience." So we proclaim and we shout from a mountaintop the promises that God has for us. And He makes promises that no one else can make. He makes promises that no man can actually fulfill. Even if they say them, they cannot fulfill them. God makes those promises and He can walk them out. But it requires obedience from our side. It requires us to understand what it is that God is asking of us, kingdom standards. We talked about how from our current mental state, from our current mindset, we feel like shifting ourselves to the things that God has asked of us is a sacrifice. But in reality, the sacrifice that we're making is that as we live outside of kingdom standards, that we are sacrificing our crown. We're sacrificing the promises that God has given to us. He's a free will God. We know that. We know that we have option, right? But in choosing different, in living by world standards instead of kingdom standards, we are making a conscious decision to sacrifice our crown. Listen, this isn't an easy shift. We just have to keep in mind and remember that when we walk our walk, we rep in God. You know, when you send your kids out and you're like, listen, when you walk out this house, you representing me. You're representing our name. I need you to do as I've taught you to do. That's the same thing that God is saying to us. Our Father who art in heaven is saying, rep me right. So when those who see you and don't know me have an opportunity to see me through you. Rep God. Rep God right. And to accomplish that, we must go through a process of purification. So listen, it was broken down so clearly today and made it real simple. Purify simply means that I'm turning away from the sin. I'm making a conscious decision to shift from the sin, to shift from the things that don't align with my kingdom standards. But if I could do this on my own, then I would have already done it. So in the purification process, it requires me to turn to God. It's a shift. It's a shift away from those things that do not align with the kingdom standards. And it's a shift towards God. Because God is who will help us in the process. It's not by your might. It's not your understanding. Purification, aligning with God, repping God, living kingdom standards requires us to shift towards God so that He can shift our mindsets, which will result in us shifting our actions, our behaviors. But it starts here. It starts here, ladies. And as you go through and listen to the things that you are thinking, the words that you are sharing, the actions that you take, The question that you need to ask yourself is, does this align with kingdom standards? Now, why I said all of that, we are human. And there is not one of us that has not sinned against God. But it clearly states for us that each day is a brand new day. She calls out that each day, a brand new day without mistakes in it, is given to us. That the Word of God gives us compassion, and that the compassion is new every morning. That God never runs out of grace, mercy, or forgiveness. And I'm thankful for that. God love never fails. It never fails. And that if we put our trust in Him, not in the world, not in the job, not in my gifts, not in my talents, not in the people that are around me, but if I put my trust in God, that thy kingdom will come on earth as it is in heaven. We can wear our crown now. If we live by kingdom standards, the promises that God has offered to us will be fulfilled. That's kingdom living all day, every day. Kingdom standards.